Oh boy, here we go. Zadvice and Coffee is back. Let me post this up here right now. How to do a sales call. What's up? Come on into the room. Say hey when you get here. Greek to go. What's up, Kat? What's up, Tyson? What's going on, Gary? What's up, Frank? Ricky in the house. Lisa in the house. What's going on? So, on this wonderful, wonderful Saturday afternoon, well, it's about 1 for me right now, or 12 rather, 3 on the East Coast. Today's about sales calls. Pardon me, I'm not wearing my signature cardigan, but I am cozy. Yesterday I didn't do one of these because my neck was jacked up. I was going pretty hard in jits this week, and I was jacked up, so I was like laying in bed like this in between my own calls. So let's talk about sales calls today. I want to get right into it. A couple weeks ago, or no, it was a couple days ago, I put up a poll on my IG Live or on my IG stories, and I said, what do you want to know? What questions should I cover in these trainings, in these Zadvice and Coffee trainings? And so, first of all, I'm going to put up more questions like that. So make sure you're watching my Instagram stories and make sure you give me your questions when you have them so that I can answer them. And give me some hearts if you guys are very interested in today's topic, which is sales training. And let me pin this to the bottom here. Yes, how to do a sales call. This is very important. It's the underpinning of business. Now, not all business needs or requires sales calls like on the phone, but every entrepreneur, every person who owns a business needs to know how to sell their product, sell their service. And it can be a very daunting exercise and practice for those who've never done it before, who are not familiar with it. Now, I can tell you from my experience, I've gone through several phases of learning how to sell my stuff. Through the first kind of like wave of my entrepreneurial training, most of it was focused on copywriting. Copywriting is the art of selling with your words, meaning just your actual written words with your writing. And it's a great baseline and boilerplate for learning how to sell. It teaches you about persuasion, teaches you about emotional triggers, and all that stuff's really important. But it's not quite the same, it doesn't quite hit the same as being able to speak to someone one-on-one and get them to buy what it is that you're selling. And I know that over a period of years, I've also had different sales professionals in my organizations helping me to do the sales. And those are also great too, because you want to be able to hire closers. But if you are the executive, if you are the owner of the business, you should be the best salesperson. You know, even when you hire people who are going to sell for you, you should be able to sell better than anybody else in the office. And I know this for a fact, in Profit Paradigm, which is our accelerator for agency owners, we bring in entrepreneurs from all types of different fields. And one of the entrepreneurs we brought in, his name is Eric Huberman. Eric runs a huge digital agency called Hawk Media out here in LA. And they have a venture capital arm now. They're doing really big deals. I think they're valued at over $75 million as of the last, Forbes check. I mean, it was a pretty big company, and 150 employees plus. And up until just recently, and Hawk has been around for 7 years now, up until just recently, Eric was still doing a lot of sales calls. He was still doing the big sales calls. And so even when you evolve to the point where you're hiring people, whenever the big deals come around, you're going to be in the room. You think Jeff Bezos isn't in the room doing sales when Amazon's trying to make a big acquisition or a big merger? You think Tim Cook isn't in the room when Apple's trying to sell themselves to a partner? No. The executive has to know how to sell, whether or not they have people also assisting in that process. So just remember, even if you are planning on having someone else do this work for you, you can't ever completely offload the prospect or the project of selling your business, selling your product, selling your service, because you're going to need to be able to articulate why it is that someone should buy you, why it is that someone should pay for your service, why it is that someone should buy your product. So that's the disclaimer. Now, with that in mind, what's going on, Cindy? What's going on, Vic John? What's up, Sherry? What's up? Who else we got in the house? Gio in the house, Charles in the house, Kevin in the house, Diva Art, what's going on? Jamal in the house. Go ahead and give me some feedback while I'm doing this, where you're from, because I want to know where everyone's watching from, and I'll start really breaking this down. So let's talk about the process of selling people. First of all, it depends on what your relationship with that person is. Okay. Sometimes you might have an existing relationship with someone where it's easier to sell them, where it's easier to introduce your product or service to them. It's easier to transition into that sales situation. However, you're going to want to make sure that the frame is set for what it is that you want to create, right? Because a sales conversation is a relationship, and you don't just go into selling something without knowing what it is that they need. Most sales conversations start with questions. We see a lot of these old school, training videos of the guys like Jordan Belfort who are just like going for the sale, and they're hard selling and they're pushing, and that can get people to move over the line in some situations. But a lot of times there's buyer's remorse there, and the reason why being pushy when you sell doesn't always work or really isn't a good practice is because you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're selling is aligned with whatever your customers' needs are. You can sell something and people can even agree to buy it, but if you're not aligned with what they truly need, they're going to feel later like they're not getting what they want. Even if you didn't lie about what it is that you're selling, if you don't align what you have to offer with what they need, there will be a disconnect and it won't be a good relationship. And this is something that's important to understand right outside of the actual selling of the thing. You have to make sure that what you have and what they need are aligned. If it's not aligned, you're not going to have a good experience. And so typically when I do sales calls, I start with a 2-call close format. And this is basically replacing the proposals. Most service providers start with proposals where they talk to the prospect and then they send them basically a PDF or an email with everything that they're going to do and the price at the end. And what happens when you do that? When you send someone a proposal, usually they look at it, they review it, and they never get back to you. Proposals don't work anymore. Proposals are dead. We want to go with this 2-call close format. And here's how it goes. The first call is just a discovery call. So the entire process or the entire purpose of this call is to find out if you can actually help that person. It is hard in the beginning when you really want to sell your service or your product to not be thirsty, to not feel like you have to close, to not feel like you have to get them across the line and get their money on that first call. It's hard to feel like you can be patient when obviously the goal of a sales process is to make money. But this first call that you do with someone should be scheduled for 30 minutes to an hour, and the whole purpose of that call is getting to know them. And this, of course, if we're talking about sales phone calls, we're talking about selling consulting, selling freelance services, selling coaching, selling your company's service. It works even better as a service, although it can work when you're selling products as well. Of course, it can work with selling products. And the goal is asking them questions, getting to the point where you understand what it is that they're dealing with, understanding their pain points, understanding their struggles, understanding their concerns, and getting them to do most of the talking. When you go to the doctor's office, the doctor doesn't start by giving you a monologue about how good he is, about how much he or she is, about how good her credentials and her degree are, about how many things she knows. The doctor listens, right? So you want to take the doctor frame for this, and this is just your preliminary doctor's visit. You need to hear what it is that's going on with the person. You need to understand what their problems are in their words, right? And this is very important because when you're selling them, you only want to sell them the thing that they actually want, like we've been discussing. So as you're listening, you're taking notes. You're getting a notepad out. You're writing down key points that they have. You're writing down things that they've discussed that are problems for them. You're taking them through a process where you're getting them to reveal what it is that's really going on with them so that you can understand where it is that you can be of service. And you should spend, I would say about 70% of this initial phone call just listening, just getting to understand how they got to where they are and also where they want to go. The whole idea of a sales process is you want to show how what you're providing, whether it's a product or a service, can take someone from where they are to where they want to be. And you want to show them how you can create a transformation in their life. And this isn't just applying to coaching. This applies to any type of business-to-business transaction, consulting, selling a product. At the end of the day, we all buy things because we're hoping that they'll transform one element or one or more elements of our lives. And so you want to listen to where that transformation is that they're looking for, and you want to start understanding how what it is that you might offer can aid or help create that transformation for them, because that's really what it's about. Right? Give me some hearts if you're starting to understand this. Sales is about a transformation process. It's about understanding where someone is and how you can help, with your partnership in whatever their struggle is, get them to that next phase. It's about that transformation. And so this is really important. And you'll spend 30 to 60 minutes on the phone getting them to be real with you, to talk to you. And this is where you're building your rapport as well. You're getting to learn more about perhaps their upbringing. You're getting more information about how their company functions or who the main players are. And there are a couple key things you're going to want to know. So write these things down, especially if it's a B2B transaction. During this discovery call, you're going to want to know, basically who the key decision makers are within their team or their organization. If it's a solopreneur, then maybe it's their spouse. Maybe their spouse helps them to make decisions. If they're a business owner, they might have other key executives, other key players. You want to know who else is helping to make these decisions. If it's not just them who can make the decision, then what you're going to want to do is honestly see if you can get that other person on the phone. And it can be during this discovery call, or it can be scheduling a second call. And the reason for this is because you oftentimes have a hard time getting someone to understand what it is you're offering if they're not on the phone. And if a decision maker that's not on the phone is going to be part of the process of deciding whether or not to buy with you, then it's going to be really difficult for you to convince them that you should work together if the only time they speak with you is when you're trying to close them. So just keep this in mind. So you want to know who the decision makers are. You want to know what type of revenue this person or this business is making. You want to know what mistakes they've made in the past, some of their big errors, some of their potential regrets in the business. You want to know where the business is strong right now. Of course, we're talking B2B sales right now, but if this is a B2C where it's a customer, you want to know other key details. Let's say you're working on you're working with someone and you're a fitness trainer or a fitness coach, and you want to learn more about, where in the past they've tried to clean up this area of their life and why it didn't work. You always want to show the contrast between what their intention has been and what the reality has been. And on this discovery call, the idea is you getting to see that gap. They're coming to you because they have a problem, and they're most likely going to not have solved that problem yet, otherwise they would be on the phone with you. So you want to continue to expose that gap. If you're doing some sort of B2B sales where you're trying to help them make more money, you expose, where the revenue is and where they want to go and why that gap is there. If it's, like I said, you're a fitness trainer and they want to lose weight and gain muscle, you want to expose what they've tried before and why it hasn't worked, So you want to expose that gap. That's what this is all about. So after you've kind of dug into the pain points again, you've talked to them about what's really going on with them. You've gotten them to kind of peel back some of the layers of their life and their business. Then you start to make an internal decision in your head. And this is the part where honesty in sales really comes into play, because, during this qualification process, what you should be thinking about is not how am I going to make the money, but is this the right person to work with? Because you only want to offer them a second call with you, which is essentially the sales call, if they're an absolute good fit. If they're not a good fit, then you're not in alignment with your sales process. And no matter whether you sell them or not, it's not going to be a good sales interaction, because they're going to feel after you've delivered the product or service, if it's not for them, they're going to know that. And they're going to feel like they were hard sold. They're going to feel like you knew that it wasn't right for them and you sold them anyway. And this is where I've messed up in the past. In the past, I've been so concerned with making the sale that I've pressed to make it. And whenever I press to make it, even if I close it, it never feels good, right? And it never ends the way I want it to end, because the person doesn't get what they need from me. So after you've listened to them, then you're coming back to the doctor frame and you're listening to them. And once you've made the the initial diagnostic, now you can make a prescription and you can say, you know what, I've taken the time to listen to what you're saying. It sounds like X, Y, Z are your problems. You're reiterating what it is that they've told you. You're offering some light and shining some light on what it is that they've been doing that's causing that gap between where they are and where they want to be. And then you're offering them the second call. And the second call is essentially the prescription. So if the first call is the diagnostic, the second call is the prescription. And on the second call, this is where you're going to take them through whatever it is that you're going to do or provide or help them to create that's going to solve the problem that they're having. So if it's a training program or a service that you're providing, maybe it's a web design service or an app that you're going to build or a coaching program or a, it could be a physical product, insert your product or service here. It doesn't really matter. You'll adjust your training or you'll adjust your sales pitch to whatever it is that you're selling. But this is where you demonstrate the solution. Now, this prescription that you're providing for them, you're actually going to demonstrate this on the call. So for instance, one of my clients, Stevie does, he essentially does lead generation for chiropractors and pain management specialists. And the way that he does this is, at the end of the day, it's just Facebook ads, but the way that he positions it is as his custom lead gen solution. And what he does after this discovery call, if it's the right fit for that client, he essentially just brings them onto the second call and he literally walks them through on the back end what it looks like to work with him. And that's what you want to do. You want to show them, a day in the life of what it is to work with you. So maybe if you're doing marketing for someone, you take them through your successful campaigns. You show them what it's like on the back end of your systems. You really show them the real numbers. If it's a coaching program to help people lose weight, you're taking them through what your structure would be of the program. You're taking them through what some of the typical results are. You're playing for them some of these short case studies and testimonials. When we sell Profit Paradigm, what we do is I take them through an entire roadmap where I bring them on Zoom, so it's a video call, and I'll take them through a roadmap of 90 days. And over that 90-day period, I'll show them exactly how their business will transform. First, I'll show them what happens when they join the program. I'll show them the onboarding process. I'll show them the whole back end of the program. I'll show them what students are doing, how it's working. I'll show them some of the wins people are having. I'll give them some examples of in-depth case studies. And I'll basically paint the picture. And the idea and the framework is we're making the assumption that they're going to join and this is how it will look. And this is how it will feel. And this is what students are going through. And this is what students are doing. And if you're selling, let's say you're developing an app for somebody. Well, in this process of this prescription, you as the doctor are going to show them exactly how the phases will work. What happens in the first 30 days? What happens in the first 90 days? How will it look when you're designing the brand identity? What will that process be like? Who are the core team members they'll be working with? What are some examples of these stages in the past? How does all this stuff fit together with the overall strategy for launching the app? What does the timeline look like? You're giving them all the information that they need, and you're showing them how you're going to hold their hand through the process. And that's the important part, because they want to know that you're not just selling them something and going to leave them alone to fend for themselves in the wilderness. You're going to guide them through the process. And this is especially important as a service provider. And so when you make this jump between just the diagnostic call, which is just the discovery, learning about them, understanding their needs, understanding their pain points, understanding their problems, understanding the opportunities for where you can help, and then you give them the opportunity to get on this prescription call with you, where they can see what it is that you're offering, where they can understand what it is that you're doing for other students. Depending on, I'm using students here because when I'm doing coaching, that's how I frame it. But you're giving them the full picture of what it is to work with you and what you're providing. Then you can bridge that gap between where their holes are and where your service fills those holes. And that's how you're able to make an ethical sale that's in alignment, because you've already spent, at this point, probably an hour to an hour and a half between, the first and second call, getting to know them, getting to understand their pain points, getting to understand their problems, and getting to understand where your particular solution will fit into their lives. And that's how you make a sale that's almost effortless, because you're essentially offering them exactly what it is that they're asking for. You're not trying to sell them, you're basically showing them that you have an offer that they already want. So again, going back to the Jordan Belfort idea of hard selling, Jordan Belfort, he has this very famous concept of sell me this pen. And the whole idea is, exaggerate the benefits of this pen. Oh, this pen, pens have been used for thousands of years to create the world's greatest work, and you too can be a part of this legacy, blah, 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 blah. You're basically trying to give attributes to a pen that doesn't have and to use emotion to sell something that maybe the customer doesn't need. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is we're actually doing a process where it's finding a pain point and aligning your offer with that pain point so it's a perfect fit. Just like a puzzle piece fits perfectly into the spot where it was cut out of. Just like a key fits into the perfect lock. And that's how you create a sales process that truly works. And so it's a two-call sales process. And as you get better and better, especially as you start to know who it is that you're working with and who your potential clients are, sometimes you can turn this into a one-call sales process. And there are certainly people who do one-call sales all the time. But for the purposes of you developing your practice, it's absolutely useful to use this two-call process, because you might even find that as you're doing some of these discovery calls, people aren't a good fit. And that's your responsibility as an ethical salesperson to listen to them at that call, listen to what it is they truly need, understand what it is that they are struggling with and where you might be able to help, and say, you know what, I don't think I'm the right fit for you. I don't think you're ready yet for this help, or I think maybe you're actually past where I can help you. This isn't a good fit. And what you'll notice is something funny. Oftentimes, if you say you're not a good fit, the person might even fight for why they do want to work with you and why they are a good fit, which is totally crazy, right? Because you're actually telling them, no, I don't think it will work. And they're saying, hey, please let me do some work with you. That actually happens more than you might think. And so you'll find that the more ethical you are with the sales process, the easier it is to sell. A lot of people think that they have to be a little bit slippery and slimy to be able to really sell a lot. But I found that the more upfront and honest you are with the process, the easier it is. And when you get into the close part, this is on call number 2, and you're introducing the price. Okay, the price is always an emotionally hard part for, I think, more even the salesperson than the person being sold to. But it's very simple. Okay, you've introduced the product to them, you've introduced the service to them, and you simply give them the information, and then you say, and the investment is $20,000. And you pause. And you wait. You wait for them to speak. You don't say it's $20,000, but we can do, if that's too much, we can always reduce the price, and I have a special coupon for you, and maybe we can do a special deal, and oh, I'm sorry. No. Whatever your price is, that's your price. Oh, it's $2,000. And you wait. And you wait for their reaction. A lot of times our imposter syndrome around what we're selling is so thick that we can't even see that people actually do want to buy from us, and that they just have a few more questions. Because what's going to happen is you'll say, well, the price is $20,000. You'll wait. And then they'll tell you what it is they need next. Sometimes they might say, great, where do I sign up? Or they might say, oh, okay, I have a few questions, and then they'll start to give you more questions, and you answer those questions. Or they might say, oh, okay, well, I wasn't expecting it to be that much. Are there payment options? And you'll say, yes, there are payment options. You wait for them to make the next move. You don't automatically disqualify yourself. You don't say the price and then disqualify yourself by trying to give them an out before they've even asked for one. You wait for them to make the next move. And here's my advice about getting the close on that call. You want to make sure that you've answered the questions well enough where they don't have any more questions on that call. Some people will say, oh, well, I just need to think about it. Can you write this down in an email and send it to me, and I'll think about it, I'll review it. That is a sign of death right there. If you do that, they're not going to buy. 9.9 times out of 10, if you leave the phone call without the sale, they're not going to buy. There are some times when they will, and you'll have to get a good feel for who those people are. You'll need to have a lot of sales calls where you can really truly understand what people's buying signals are, but most of the time if they leave that call, they're not going to buy. And it's because there's a certain energy on these sales calls that it needs to be maintained, and especially if it's a more expensive or higher ticket thing, people get scared and they don't want to make these decisions. And so part of this process is needing your help to help them to create an opportunity for themselves or make an investment that they do want to make, but they're too afraid to pull the trigger on. And so you can play this line and you can do this ethically in a way that is truly serving and helping you to build your business. It's not one or the other. You can do both. And it's a skill. And so let's say that they come to you with some objections. Oh, well, it's too much. I'm not sure I'd be able to afford it. A simple response you can say is, tell me more about that, and let them talk. And let them explain to you where their gaps are. They might say, oh, well, my business partner or my husband, or, this bill is coming up or that or this. And they're gonna tell you what they need, and then you can create your objection handlers around those things. And you're not always gonna win every time, but you're going to get a lot of experience getting different objections and understanding where it is that you need to fill up the gaps. And any excuse or objection that they give you, just ask them to tell you more. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. Let them tell you, and then you work from their answers, Because, of course, you've provided, if you've done your good job, all the answers that they're going to need on that sales call. And so you want to then, after you've made your offer, see where it is that they stand, see where the pain points are that you haven't answered still are, and understand where some of your gaps might have been in your presentation, by making the offer, presenting them with the price, hearing where their objections are, answering those objections, coming back, making sure that they feel secure, and then going back and offering again. Okay, are you ready to get started? Let's get started. And just remember this, sales really are all about making people feel secure. Someone has to feel secure to transfer their money to you. Someone has to feel secure to give you some of their hard-earned income or business revenue in exchange for your service. And they have to believe that your service is going to solve a very important problem for them. And in order for them to feel secure, you have to kind of get underneath them. You have to show that you're truly there in service to them, which might sound corny to you, and maybe you've heard that before, but it's the absolute truth. You have to show that you're truly in service by being in alignment with your intention the entire process, being completely open and honest with them the entire process, taking them through everything that you have to offer and how it can help them the entire process, and understanding that someone needs to feel like they're secure to buy with you, because when someone gives you money on a core level, even if they don't know this, they're giving you a piece of their life. Because someone might think, I'm giving them this money, what if I don't have money to, do this thing next month, or am I going to be able to eat? I mean, at the core level, even if it's not necessarily true, people feel like when they transfer their money to you, there's a small chance that they could die, at the core level of it. At the core level, people feel that when they are giving away money, there's a sense of death, that they are getting closer to being vulnerable when they give away some of their money. So you have to then create security in them by making them understand that what they're doing is not just an investment in themselves, but it's also a very important piece of them solving the problem that they came to you with. It's not the same thing as them buying I guess in a lot of ways, even when you think about luxury goods, you think about a Ferrari or you think about buying a Gucci bag, there is a process, or there is a part of that process that is about someone feeling a need or perceived need in order to, feel like they're solving a problem. But in your case, if you're watching this, you're a service provider, you're a consultant or a coach, you're selling a product, maybe you have a startup that's in tech, something like that, and you are solving an actual problem. It's not just a luxury good. And so you need to create and shape that sales conversation so that they know that you are a part of that solution, not just one more thing they have to worry about. And you want to become their trusted advisor. And you can do that in a series of a few phone calls. And if you're going to be the one who's actually working with those people, then you'll continue to be that person. So I hope this training was helpful. This is stuff I talk about with my elite clients all the time. In the past year, my elite clients have made a collected $1.5 million. And that's as a result of all the training we've been doing to help them understand where their gaps are in the sales processes, how to develop audiences that actually want to buy from them, how to position their offers, how to actually create a business that's sustainable. And I'm not just talking about coaches, coaching coaches. No, I'm talking about real businesses. I'm talking about working with people in tech, working with people in media, working with people in recruiting, working with consultants, also working with coaches as well. And if you run a service, or you provide a service, or you provide a product, or you're building a brand, that's where my expertise lies. That's where my bread and butter is. So if you want to learn more about working with me and understanding the process of developing your strengths as a salesperson, developing your craft for selling your business, selling your vision, and not only doing it efficiently, but also doing it in an ethical way, then you can check out alphamentorship.com/elite. That's where you can learn more about my coaching program and how I work with entrepreneurs and companies to make money and also get a lot of momentum. And if you have more questions about this, you can DM me here on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're watching this replay on IGTV or YouTube or Facebook, you can leave comments there below if you have any more questions about sales or anything else that I've been talking about on these Zadvice and coffees on a day-to-day basis. Much love talking to you guys. It's been pretty cool. This is one I've wanted to do for a while, and this sales training little rant was the result of me getting some great questions in my inbox. So I'll be putting up more of these polls on Instagram stories, and make sure that you ask me some questions on there as well, because I want to answer your question next. It makes it easier for me. It's all crowdsourced, baby. So much love. Enjoy your Saturday morning or afternoon here in the States. Enjoy your Saturday evening over there in Europe, and maybe even your Sunday morning in some other places in the world. Much love. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.